everyone, welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith. Yes, we have delayed this playthrough for far too long, and I am really excited to get back into it. So we're going to be starting off part number 1 right now because we've already done the solo setup and rules overview videos. If you have not checked those out, then I advise you to do so because it'll help you understand how we got to this current state in the game prior to starting the playthrough. So of course we've got our 4 heroes here. I'll angle these so the light hits them just perfect so you guys can see them a little bit better. And those are them, and then the Necromancer here is starting in the ruins. Now what I want to do before we start is just read a little bit about the backstory of each character to give just a little bit of a theme and some flavor text to each of these guys we're controlling. So the Alchemist here, the Alchemist seeks to understand and control the most fundamental laws of the world, separating and refining materials into their most essential qualities. His art allows him to capture the powers of diverse artifacts and compounds and put them to new ends, concocting an array of wondrous brews, bottling fire, fate, and illusion. The alchemist always has another trick up his sleeve. We also have the Rogue as one of the other individuals or heroes in this game. The Rogue is a subtle hero, uniquely able to maintain a low profile and escape notice. This secrecy, in turn, can be used by the Rogue to perform special tasks too dangerous for others to attempt. The Rogue functions well as an assassin or a saboteur, whittling away at the Necromancer's ebon grip without presenting a target for counterattack. The Conjurer shapes ethereal energies into tangible forms, creating weapons, distractions, and other useful devices out of shadow and spirit. Though not strong in a direct confrontation, the Conjurer is adept at spreading his influence over an area to arrange circumstances in his favor. With careful planning, and the Conjurer's creations can be a great help to his allies as well as himself. The Nymph, the wilderness surrounding the kingdom is rumored to contain many mysteries and wondrous things, but rare is the day when one of them makes its presence known. The Nymph has a strange and potent abilities linked to the circles of nature, and motives that few men might guess. But any ally the Necromancer is welcome in the kingdom today. Or any ally against the Necromancer is welcome in the kingdom today. That's a big word to miss in that one. Okay, perfect. So now we've read the backstories for all 4 characters, and we're going to start it off with the first player. So on a regular hero turn, the things that happen at the very start, or in the starting phase of the round, is the first thing is you lose the secrecy if the Necromancer is present. And you lose 1 secrecy if carrying a holy relic. So neither of those apply because the Necromancer is not present on our actual space or area. And none of us are carrying a holy relic. We're looking to get these eventually, but we don't have them currently. And then we're going to go ahead and resolve any start of turn instructions on power cards. Now we come down here and there isn't any just yet. So we don't have any power cards kind of in play that have like a starting effect, but we may run into that later on. The next thing we're going to do here is we're going to go into the event phase. Now you're going to skip this if you're in the Monastery. So in this particular case, all of our heroes are in the Monastery, so we're going to completely skip the event phase. And it does say here, if the Necromancer is present and your secrecy is 0, combat with the Necromancer, otherwise draw an event card. So the Necromancer could end up in the Monastery at a certain point later in the game, but the first phase we'll do anything is the action phase. All right, the Alchemist is up first, so the first thing I'm going to get the Alchemist to do is move. We want to get into this forest area here because we got some of these blights that are really annoying called the Enigmas. Now these ones, I have 2 of them actually, this one here and one over here with the Necromancer. They're going to basically make all searches across the board +1 search difficulty. So that's nasty, and that's on all spaces. So that's really nasty. So we want to get rid of those, and they're not that bad. They're not that tough to get rid of. We just need to land a 4 in order to knock it off. So it is possible on a 6-sided die that 4, 5, 6 we can nail that. So I'm going to have the Alchemist move down here for his turn, so he's ready to do so on a future turn. So that's going to deactivate him. Then we're going to come over here to the Rogue. The Rogue is next. Now, I've got a couple things I was thinking of doing with the Rogue. I was planning on having him go to a harder, higher Omen blight up here. Now, this Omen basically, it states that it just basically will force me to grab 2 events and pick one that's worse than the other, essentially. So these are kind of bad. They're also tough to get rid of, being they're 6. So you're going to probably want some sparks in order to try to re-roll, or have additional dice, I should say, in order to try to take it down. So I'm going to actually do something interesting here with the Rogue. The rogue has quite a bit of secrecy to spend, and I'm thinking about potentially doing this one, the smuggling network. So spend 1 secrecy to move to an adjacent location, and then take a different action. So I'm thinking I'm going to do that. So I'm going to spend this 1 secrecy to allow me to do a move action to the mountains area here, and then at the same time I'm going to do another action. I'm going to attack this omen. Now the only bad thing about this is I don't have any extra sparks, so this is kind of a gamble. It's a real risk. You know, I might land a 6, I might not. We'll see what happens. I got a 5. Too short. So, I mean, the chances of that were pretty slim anyway. So, essentially, I have to suffer now what's considered an event. So, there's an event there at the bottom, and that's basically what I've got to deal with. So, now I'm going to come over here to the event deck. We're going to pull this and find out what we are suffering. Watchers. Okay, so compared to, if I'm seeing that correctly. Oh, okay, so this is talking about the darkness track here on the bottom, which currently hasn't risen for me yet, so I'm in the 0 to 9 situation. It says lookout. It says minus your shield, 4 awareness, failure, lose 1 secrecy, a hushed word, a sudden stillness, eyes in the dark. Alright, so let's go ahead and resolve this event. Alright, so this nasty Watchers card here, we'll see right in this area, the card here, it states a shield with a minus. That normally would mean that we would be able to fight it if it didn't have that dash beside it. It's not really a minus, it's a dash. If it has a dash beside the shield, it cannot be fought in combat. It then only has the chance to evade it, basically. So these guys are Watchers. It kind of makes thematic sense that we're trying to evade them. We need a 4 when we roll, and if we don't land that, then we lose a secrecy. So that's kind of bad for us. I'm also going to do a quick check here to see whether or not I have anything that can help me with this. I don't believe I do. So bonus anytime you can exhaust to gain secrecy. Spend 1 secrecy to search with 2 dice. No, I don't have anything that's going to help me at this particular moment, so I'm going to have to roll this die and just hope for the best. We're looking for a 4, 5, or 6. Got a 6. Well, I could have used that earlier. So we did pass. So we passed the event, so that's good news. We don't have to deal with that event. So now we're done with the rogue. The rogue can deactivate for its turn, and we're going to move over to the conjurer. Now, the conjurer's got a couple interesting abilities here. So we got something here called activate in your location, then hide. Probably not something I want to use just yet. This one is when a search, event, quest, or mystery causes you to gain an item other than a key, exhaust to gain another item of the same type. That's cool, and it's just a bonus that's always in effect. The other bonus I have is summon. Exhaust during your turn to move any hero to your location. That hero gains 1 secrecy. So I'm going to pull people towards me, which is really handy. So I think what I'm going to do is probably do the split. So I'm going to have maybe the conjurer head down here to the forest with the alchemist, and I'm going to have the nymph go up to the mountains because I think these 2 characters, my nymph and my rogue, are my toughest, I believe, that can handle the omens or at least have a better shot. So I'm going to send them that way. So I'm going to send the conjurer down to the forest area. So now we have another individual in the forest, and that essentially ends the conjurer's turn. Now again, there's other benefits to moving normally. So when you normally move, if I actually had like a low secrecy, because normally the default for secrecy at the highest is 5, so I can gain a secrecy up to 5. So technically, actually, my conjurer can bump that up, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, because a travel action is a move and then gain 1 secrecy up to 5. So I can actually bump the conjurer. Oh, sorry, that's grace. My mistake. I was looking at the wrong one there. So my secrecy actually on all of my characters currently is over 5. So I'm not going to get that bonus. But just so you guys know, any movement will gain a secrecy, and that's a good thing to remember. So we've now deactivated all 3 of these heroes. We're going over to the nymph. The nymph has some really interesting cards that I want to show you guys. So this one here, I'll show you right up close. This one's called a tactic. You're going to use this when you're fighting. If you want to exhaust to elude successfully without rolling, that's cool if we want to avoid something. We have something here called Overgrowth. Now, she's got some really cool powers in that she can basically change the seasons of the year to gain benefits. But as soon as she's doing so, then, you know, this one's a little bit... I'm kind of doing this in reverse order. This one's a bonus. So this one happens as a result of a choice. So for instance, if I go here, it says action, exhaust to basically determine whether it's spring, summer, autumn, winter. I can pick and then gain the benefit. The cool thing is on top of that is I get a bonus based on whichever one I choose. But if I ever choose to deactivate or change it, then of course I lose it. So it's kind of a rotating thing that I can use when I want to. The one that I'm eyeing very much so on Gust is going to autumn to attack twice, because it would allow me 2 attempts to go after somebody, which would be pretty good. This one here is a search then attack, so that's kind of cool as well, or search twice, but I think attack twice might be useful, or I could even travel twice if I wanted to book it all the way over to here. So what I might do for the first turn through is I'm not going to use that action on the card yet. I think I'm just going to travel. So I'm going to bring my nymph into the mountains as well. So now we've kind of split up the party, and that's basically going to end the hero's turn. And don't forget to flip over that marker to denote that we've deactivated the hero. Alright, so time for the nasty Necromancer turn, the one turn we definitely don't want to be dealing with right now. So the first thing we're going to do is bump up the darkness track by 1. So this is going to actually trigger nothing, as we're currently in this section of the game which says no additional abilities. If we had have actually flipped over 10, then it tells us to draw a card, we'd put that card into play, its effects would then trigger. You know, it could eventually actually end up messing around with us quite badly. But for now, we can skip past that. There's nothing else to apply that way. And of course, if we have any quests that are on the board anywhere that have a timer aspect to them in terms of how many rounds they go before they get either, till we either fail them because we didn't get them completed, or they just run out of time, then we're using these timer tokens. You'll see that later on when we get quests. We'll be adding those in at this particular point during the Necromancer turn. The next thing to do is Necromancer movement. So at this particular point, we're going to be doing a number of different things involving rolling a die to determine where the Necromancer goes, also based on our position on the map. We'll talk about that in 2 seconds. Alright, so how the Necromancer moves is really cool, actually. It's a really interesting mechanic. So again, way in the rules overview, we talked about all these different die rolls all over the board that specify on this Necromancer roll where the Necromancer will go. However, we have to determine whether or not when the Necromancer rolls this die for himself, whether we're going to, or he's going to pick up on any of our heroes. And he's trying to pick up or roll higher. He always has to roll greater than our secrecy. So he can't roll equal to. So in other words, any of my heroes currently, like I have this hero at 6, this hero here is at 6, this one here is at 5. So the conjurer is at risk because I could potentially roll a 6 on a d6, and the nymph is at a 6. So the conjurer is actually the only individual who's at risk of being picked up by the Necromancer, and it's just likely because of his power and ability. Maybe the Necromancer can sense him thematically. So if we happen to roll a 6, because it has to be higher, then the Necromancer will guaranteed be moving into this location. If he doesn't roll a 6, then we're going to be looking at the dice that are in his area to see where he goes from here. I rolled a 2. So you then compare it to, and you're looking to be higher than anyone else's secrecy in play. So Necromancer detects nobody, and because he detects nobody, he has nowhere to go, but he's now going to use this area of his board to figure out what 2 is going to do, and 2 is going to actually send him further away from us into the swamp. So that's awesome. So the Necromancer moves over to the swamp with this particular die roll. Now we move to the blight section of the Necromancer's turn, and in this we draw a map card. So we come over here to our cards, we're going to go ahead and grab a map card, and what we're looking for is the location that this Necromancer currently resides in, which is the swamp. So we're going to take a look here and find out where the swamp is, right there. So the Necromancer is going to be conjuring up some skeletons in the swamp. That's a little unfortunate for everyone involved. So the skeletons are actually a yellow blight, and yellow blights, basically when heroes end their turn location with a yellow blight, they got to defend against 1 spawn for each yellow blight, which is nasty. Now if it happens to be red, if we landed in an area that was red like we did that on the last turn, we landed with an enigma in here. Red ones just weaken or restrict heroes. They don't attack heroes, so we would never be attacked by these. As you saw, the enigmas just increase our search difficulty, make life harder for us. The blue ones, which we have actually in the last turn, we landed on a blue one, which is an omen, are actually like worldwide or whole kingdom effects. So these are going to not just affect the location it's in, but the whole area. So heroes must attack the blights in their locations, of course, to knock them out still. Anyway, the Necromancer here has definitely spawned some skeletons. They are nasty, and they are now part of the swamp. Alright, without further ado, let's begin round number 2. So the first thing I want to talk about is the starting phase, where if the Necromancer happens to be in location with you, you'd lose a secrecy. Not going to apply right now. You lose a secrecy, of course, if you're actually holding a relic, a holy relic, which we don't have yet, but we'd love to have at some point. And then the other thing is we resolve any start of turn power cards. So if we had any power cards that gave us start of turn effects, which we may see later on, then we resolve them now. So I'm going to skip past this, and I'm probably not going to speak to this skipping in the future, I'm just going to not talk about it until it becomes relevant. So we're going to move to essentially the turn order for the heroes, beginning with the Alchemist. So first up for the Alchemist, we have to pull an event card. So let's go over here to the event deck, pull a card for the Alchemist, and see what we get. The Alchemist, by the way, is in the forest location, and it's right here, and we have no blights. So this one says Upheaval, it has pretty cool artwork. Remove all blights from your current location and create an equal number of new blights. Dark magic is notoriously unstable. Who knows what it will do next? Cool. And that is probably the best card we could have gotten right now, because we just cleared the blight off the table in the last round, so we don't have any. And the card basically says we have to create an equal number of new blights based on the number that are there, and there is none there. So this is a wash, and we got lucky there, so we don't have to deal with it. That's fantastic. So we can move ahead now with the Alchemist action. And I think what I'm going to probably do with the Alchemist, being that we still have our full 6 secrecy, and we're still not able to be found by the Necromancer currently. The other thing the one thing we have to keep in mind is the Conjurer is in our location, and the Conjurer, I think, let me just see here, has a 5. So the Conjurer is the only one in my party right now that has a low enough secrecy that the Necromancer could target. The good thing is, remember, that the Conjurer, later on we talk about him, has an invisible barrier, which I'll talk about, which is really cool, and if I activate it, can basically stop the Necromancer from moving into our zone. So that's why I'm not as worried. I'm going to try to use this 2 group of individuals to kind of pull the Necromancer away from the Nymph and the Rogue, who are going to be my primary attacking character, or primary characters for going out and destroying the biggest and baddest blights we possibly can. But we'll have to see how things pan out as we go. So anyway, back to the action that the Alchemist is going to take. I'm probably going to take a search action. So we would roll against the search difficulty, draw 1 map card, and per success, and then we get to choose one. So how this works essentially is, now the blight is gone. We used to have an enigma here in this bit, but we got rid of it. That would have actually made our search difficulty worse. So you can see why being in the ruins, I'll give you a close-up of that, would have been bad. But we're okay in the forest, and the search difficulty is always labeled right on the actual tile itself, so it's a 4. So if I happen to have anything that might boost this, I might want to try to do that now. So I have a bonus here that's in effect. It says, when a search, event, quest, or mystery causes you to gain a treasure, chest, or artifact, also gain 1 green-backed item of your choice. That's awesome. So that's going to be something that comes over here. These are all greenbacked from my understanding, so those will be something that I can potentially gain. It's just a bonus. I don't have to activate it. Tactics, you can only use, you're using those technically when you're in conflict with something. And then this one here is an action, so that's not going to do anything for me right now. So this still is going to help me while I try to do this search, but I still have to pass this, so I still have to get 4, 5, or 6. So let's go ahead and roll and see whether or not we are successful. Of course, I only get 1 die, so it is a 50-50. I got a 5, so we are successful in that, so thank goodness we got a high enough roll. So because of that, and we got 1 success on 1 die, then we go ahead and we pull now a map card, and we basically line up our location. So I'm going to grab a map card over here. We're going to take a look at it. We're going to find where we are. We're currently in the forest. So where does the forest say? The forest says, this book right here. All right, so let's talk about this card that we just pulled here. This map card denoted that we pulled this book icon. Now, what does this book icon mean? It's actually a mystery, which is really cool because we haven't had any mysteries show up on the board yet. So I'm going to take this map card and we'll get rid of it real quick. We're going to replace it with a mystery card. So let's flip this over and see what we get. By Starlight. This nighttime ritual promises to weaken the Necromancer if you can pay its price. So the very first thing you do in a mystery is the clues that it shows in the upper left-hand corner, you gain automatically. So that would mean that our clue marker actually increases to 1. So now we are equal with the darkness track there. Clues are good. We want lots of clues. They're going to help us to basically be able to cash in and go towards purchases and relics, all that kind of stuff. We'll talk about that later on. But let's focus mainly on this mystery. I don't want to introduce too many concepts at the same time that aren't necessarily in play yet. Random, of course, at the top here means that this will be in a random location. How does randomness determine? Well, you'd think that the monastery never counts. You'd kind of sit there and think that you could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and roll a d6. But the game actually states that you roll and then you actually take a look at the village. It's supposed to be used as the central location for random rolls, I should say, or just a roll in general, because a roll is always random. And then look at the die leaving the village to determine where it should go. So what we're going to do to figure out where this mystery will land is we're going to take a d6 and we're going to roll it. I got a 3. We're going to take a look, and wouldn't you know it, there's a 3 right there coming out of the village, going down, and it's going to land exactly where we pretty much were anyway. So that's fantastic. This works out really, really well. So the other thing to note is there's an action here. Now, every single mystery has a couple different keywords that might show up. There's things like action, permanent, key icon, that type of thing. But this one is an action. So basically, if it's in this location and we have a hero in here, in a future turn for a hero, we could actually do this action. Now, and if you notice, it says every hero places one of their power cards on the bottom of its deck. So this is a really, really crazy one because we basically lose a power card from each of our heroes to just go ahead and do this, even when one hero does the action. And you put on the bottom of your deck, you remove a darkness card from play. Now remember, we would gain a darkness card when this darkness track eventually ticks over 10. Then we would put a darkness card in play that's going to basically affect the world and make things a living nightmare for us. But this card would allow us to get rid of that darkness card, so it would be silly of us to clear this mystery, or we should basically wait for this tracker to go over 10 and then use this to get rid of the darkness card. That's a really, really handy one to have. And there's no timer on these either. It also says here to basically gain 2 clues on top of it when you do it. So that's fantastic. So we're definitely going to keep that there, and we'll make note of that as something that we can do in the future turn. Now, that essentially was the Alchemist's turn completed. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to flip over and deactivate the Alchemist and move over to the Rogue. So the first thing that the Rogue is going to do is pull an event card for his turn. But the nasty thing is whenever he's in a zone with an Omen, and Omen's particularly nasty, it has this ability right here when it's in play, it states higher fate events. And what that means basically is we're going to be pulling an event card from the event deck, and we're going to be taking the nastier of the 2 based on the number in the top right hand corner. You might have noticed in our previous ones that we've done already, like this one here, there was a number in the top, and I didn't really talk too much about it because it doesn't come into play until right now. So let's figure out what that's all about. So this is going to be bad, really. So we're going to be pulling 2 events and basically taking the worst of the 2. So we got Twilight and we got the Unsubtile Messenger. So we'll be taking the Unsubtile Messenger. So basically Twilight is taken out. So we're going to be dealing with this one. All right, so this is for the Rogue. Lose 1 secrecy. Wow, okay, so that doesn't give us any choice. So right away we're going to have him drop down to 5. And then we'll got to figure out what is next. Draw a quest and roll 1 die to determine its location. Then add a time marker to it. Nasty. So what the downside of this is, I mean, having a quest isn't bad, but the fact it's pushing the time on the round marker forward 1, and, you know, that quickly is bad, because there are fail statuses that basically can affect you as well. So it says the rider made excellent time. He also left a clear trail, enough for even a zombie to follow. So let's go ahead and draw a quest. So we're going to go over to the quest deck here. They have kind of a scroll on top of it. And we got the lovers. Okay, so we're going to be, it looks like we're going to be going after some lovers. They look like they're ghosts. There's some flavor text in the bottom that I'll read first so we understand what's actually going on here. So it says 2 lovers were separated and slain while fleeing the undead. Locate their graves, or they will hunt this place, or they will haunt this place for years to come. So basically these are the kind of successes or the requirements in order to complete the quest. You need 2 of these. They're also found in tokens that look just like this, kind of similar to the timer tokens. So we're going to need 2 of them on here. This area right here is going to tell us how to do it. This is how many rounds we have to do it. So we have 4, but remember, our wonderful event card is going to put 1 on this card to start with. So before we even do anything, we've already got 1 on here. The other thing it says here is when you draw a search result in this location, so again, this is going to be how you actually get those successes to complete your quest. But first, we actually have to talk with this event over here because it says draw a quest and roll 1 die to determine its location. So as I talked about earlier, we got to figure out from the village where is it supposed to be. It doesn't just float around the map. We got to figure out its actual target location. So in this case, again, we got a, oh, actually not again, this is different. We got a 5. And looking right here from the village, a 5 actually is in with the Necromancer. So that's really nasty. So this is where things get tough because we've got a quest in here that's based on a timer. We've only got technically 3 more rounds, and if it expires, because it sits in there too long and we don't deal with it, the darkness track is going to increase by 2. If we complete it, we gain inspiration, and we can talk more about what we gain from that later on once we actually achieve it. So for now, I'm just going to drop it back here, and that's that. Then we've resolved this event, so this one's going to get discarded as well. And now the rogue can make a decision on what the rogue would like to do. Now, we have a number of different actions here, and I'm kind of pondering which one will be best for the rogue. Now, right now, the rogue is, could be seen, because if the Necromancer rolls a 6, could be seen. But in this turn, if the Necromancer moves, it's not that big of a deal, because the Necromancer can't get to me. We're 2 away on every side right now, so I'm not too worried about that. I think meditating and gaining a spark would be the best thing to do. Because if we gain a spark, we gain an additional die, which we can roll when we try to get rid of these omens. So I'm going to gain a spark as one of the things for the rogue. Now, the only other thing that I could change that in my mind is if there's an action here on the power cards that are better. So we have like eavesdrop. It says action, spend a secrecy to search with 2 dice. Yeah, that sounds great, but I really want to get rid of that. I really want to get rid of what we already have in this location. Down here we have smuggling network, so spend 1 secrecy to move to it. We actually did this last time. So in this case, yes, I'm happy taking the spark. So we'll take a spark, put it on the character sheet, and we've now deactivated the rogue. Next up is the conjurer. So the conjurer happens to be in the same location as to where this particular mystery is, but remember, we're going to wait on that mystery until we have a card to discard. That's at least the plan. But we have to resolve an event in this location, so let's find out what the conjurer is going to be dealing with. Oh my goodness. Shadow Sight. Now, again, conjurers in this location, we have no blights that are affecting this particular area, so we're safe that way. And, oh geez, this looks bad. So it says, roll 1 die and pick 1. Oh my goodness. Nasty. Oh. That doesn't look good at all. It doesn't look like we get to pick anything. I love how they say that, though. Roll 1 die. Here's what happens for all 3 things, but pick 1? I don't think we really get a choice in that situation when you're rolling 1 die, unless you've got a weighted die, which would be fantastic. Okay, so we're going to roll a die and see what happens. So this is a Shadow Sight. This doesn't look good at all. We got a 1. Please tell me that's not terrible. Oh, we lose a Grace. Then look at the top card of any deck and put it on the top or bottom. Huh. Interesting. Okay. Oh, Shadow Sight. Guess it makes thematic sense. But losing a Grace is not good. So our Grace now slips from, and actually should have been 3. It should never have been 4. Started at 3, and now it's been knocked down to 2. So that's not good, because Grace is what helps us survive. For instance, you guys don't understand this yet, maybe, if you are new to the game. But skeletons, for instance, are a good example. If we just try to defeat a skeleton and we happen to get a fail condition that has a skull, that means you're dead. And in this game, when you die, you have to have Grace, or like be able to consume a Grace to survive to the next round. Basically, to be able to get back up on your feet and try again. If you run out of Grace and you get hit, it just leaves you very, very weak. We'll talk more about that if it happens. I don't want to really clog up the playthrough with that right now. But yeah, we've resolved this particular Shadow Sight. So this card now can be removed. But we do get to pick any card and put it on the top or bottom. So what I'm thinking is, I want to do the event, because we're going to have one more event pull for the nymph, and I kind of like to know what it is in advance. So let's pull that event card and see what it is. This one's Respite. It's 1. It says reshuffle the event deck, including this. Yeah, so this is a good one. When you get Respite, essentially the idea behind this is you take all of the event cards we've already discarded, and we basically reshuffle them back in the deck. So that's a great card to have, because really at the end of the day, it's a safe one for the nymph currently. Now again, the bad side of that is it's going to bring a bunch of ones back that we've already dealt with back into the deck, but it gives the nymph a clean turn. So I'll take that and I'll leave it on top. So that Shadow Sight wasn't so bad, I guess. It didn't really change much though in the end, because we would have hit that regardless. So what is the Conjurer going to do? Well, the Conjurer doesn't really feel like putting up an invisible barrier. That would be a waste of an action. Duplication, no. Summon, no. We could try to search here again. We could do another search. That wouldn't actually be a bad idea. I think searching does make sense. So let's do that. Let's do a search. The only other thing I could think of is maybe a spark would be nice. Yeah, we really don't have any other reasons to... And just so you guys know as well, in order to retrieve a holy relic, like one of these amazing relics that are on the board, which we need basically to win the game, or as part of one of the ways we can win the game, we need to spend 10 clues. So that's where that tie into clues comes into effect. We need to get these relics, or we should like to get those relics. But I'm going to try to search. Let's do that. We're going to roll a die, see what happens. Here's hoping. A 4. We succeeded. Wow, I'm doing actually pretty good with the dice rolling, so I'm happy about that. We're going to grab a map card and figure out where we are. We know we're in the forest, so we don't have to figure out too much. And look at that, we got another mystery, so that's awesome. So we're going to go to the mystery deck again, flip this over, and what do we get this time? We're going to gain another clue, so that's fantastic. This is ways we can gain clues as we search for things. That's good. This one says, whosoever worthy, prophets of the old, have sealed away their wisdom for a time such as this. Prove your worthiness, and you may inherit their secrets. It's a random, so we got to figure out where on the board it's going to land. It lands on 5. Oh, geez. Stop putting all these things in with the Necromancer. It's terrible. And then for an action, gain a clue equal to your current grace and discard this card. That is really good. Wow, that's really good. That's a great mystery to have. That basically you want to get someone that has a high grace into the location because that is massive. If you want to get clues, that is a good one to have. Awesome. Okay, so that was the Conjurer's turn. Conjurer's turn is done, just like that. And we're moving on to the Nymph. All right, time to go ahead with the Nymph's turn. So the first thing we're going to do is grab the event card, and we already know what it is because we used that Shadow Sight card, which is pretty cool. We got Respite, so we know we're going to be reshuffling the event deck. So I'm going to quickly just grab all the event cards, do a big reshuffle. We're right back. The event deck is all reshuffled, and everything is back together. So all cards are back in, including the event that we pulled that actually triggered that shuffle or reshuffle in the first place. So everything from our discard pile that was off the side of the camera here is back in the deck. So now what we're going to be doing is going on with the Nymph's turn. This is a really cool ability the Nymph has. It's really, really cool. So basically she's got this card, and I want to bring it up real close so you guys can see it. But essentially we have this thing right here. It says Gust. So it says as an action, we can exhaust this to choose which time of the year it is, basically. So in this case, I'm tempted to do attack twice because it would give me the ability to potentially take out that omen, which wouldn't be all that bad. It would stop us from getting basically nasty events being pulled from here. Now the reason I want to pick Autumn is because I have a really cool ability called Overgrowth, which kicks in as a bonus when it's autumn to gain a spark before you attack. So on my first attack, I would be rolling 2 dice, better chances of hitting a 6, and then I could roll another 6 after that. Now the downside to all this is that every single time I fail to attack, I'm going to have to deal with an event card. So it's kind of ironic. I'm basically trying to get rid of this to get rid of event cards, but if I don't, I get event cards. Interesting, right? So it's kind of an interesting loop, but I'm going to try it because I really do want to get rid of I do really want to get rid of this off the board because I find like it's going to be a pain if we don't pay attention to the fact that the Necromancer every single turn is going to be adding a blight, and if we're not at least dealing with one, we're not really controlling the map. We're gonna become overloaded with things to do. So I want to try to stay on top of it as much as possible. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna use this Gust power card here. We're gonna be exhausting it to the side to choose Autumn to attack twice. Then we're gonna gain the bonus that says gain a spark before you attack. That's fantastic. So we'll take that spark, although we'll technically be using it right away. And that's gonna allow us to cash that in for an extra die when we're rolling against the Omen. So we need to get a 6 on this, which is crazy high, in order to defeat it. And that's really all I'm hoping is that I can land a 6. I'm hoping that this roll is on my side. I got it! I got the 6. That's so good. Okay, well, I'm really happy because then still was really, 30, I guess it was like a 33, I don't even know. Yeah, 33% chance maybe of hitting that. Maybe it was higher. Maybe my math is terrible there. Anyway, regardless, Omen is gone, so that's good. This goes back to the pile of things that can come out later on, which I hope I never have to see again. But that was really good. And the cool thing is, I have the ability to attack twice, but I don't need to. So the second attack is not going to happen. But hey, it was worth it. So we got that thing off the board. So really everything from the dividing line here and over is clean, except for the village, which still has an omen. So you can see these omens are going to be nasty to get rid of. We're going to want to use powers like that, what I just did, to try to get rid of that, or to try to stack up as many dice as we possibly can. But at this point, essentially, the Nymph has done her job. Well done. So all 4 of our characters have gone, and now we're going to begin the Necromancer's turn. So the first thing we do on the Necromancer's turn, as we've learned before, is we're going to increase the darkness track. So now we have 2 darkness on the track and 2 clues. Okay, and then of course we'd put any cards into play if we happen to be over top of any of these particular numbers that go into a dividing area. We are not, so we're going to ignore that. Quest timers are going to increase, so sadly the quest timer that's sitting inside of the Necromancer's current location is increasing, which is bad because it's really ticking down how much time we have. We only have technically 2 more rounds to deal with this. This is going on in the second round. I guess we'd have 1, 2, yeah. So then we have 2 more rounds to deal with this before it triggers, and then we gain 2 more darkness. So we've kind of got to get over there, and it wouldn't be bad because of, you know, there's multiple reasons to get 2 people over here if the Necromancer gets out of there, and that's my hope. So next up, we need to roll a die in order to compare to everyone's secrecy to see if the Necromancer happens to find anybody. So again, we've got the Conjurer is at a 5, so the Conjurer could potentially be seen. The Rogue could potentially be seen if there's a 6. The Alchemist will never be seen because it's at a 6, and the Nymph's at a 6, so it won't be seen. But these guys are at 5, so because of that, if the Necromancer rolls higher, then he sees whoever, you know, heads toward that direction. And technically we have the Conjurer and the Rogue. So, and again, this spark, oh, that spark's legit. That stays there. I was thinking that was a spark I gained from before, but I was, and it should stay there. Never mind me. All right, we're rolling, and we got a 4. Okay, so that's good, because if we had rolled a 6, he would have seen, so he didn't see anything, which is great news. Now we're going to go ahead and... Now, based on the roll that we got, which was a 4, we're going to take a look at this really convoluted area here full of cards and figure out where 4 is going to send him. Not there, not there. Oh, is 4 to stay? No, he's going to stay. He's going to stay where he is. So he got the middle one there, which is a rotating arrow, which basically means he stays put, which is really bad for us because that means we're going to be drawing a map card to determine what blight type is going to show up here. Ah, that was terrible. So this whole area is getting really nasty now. So the swamp is where we're currently located, and bam, another skeleton. Are you kidding me? That's insane. So we've got 3 skeletons now in this, or I should say 2 skeletons, but 3 blights total in this area now. Just for a second, I want to talk about where these win-loss conditions start to affect us here. So basically right now we have 3 blights in the swamp. That's okay, although it's not good. And I shouldn't even say it's okay. It's actually bad. But as time goes on, it's going to get worse. If the Necromancer happens to stay in this location long enough and another blight comes into play, it would land here. This will be the 4th one. Once a 5th one needs to be put on, so 4+, for instance, then instead of putting the blight in that location that is now full of blights up to 4, it then starts being put onto the Monastery. And if the Monastery ever gets that exact same type of situation the swamp's in, where there's 4 or more sitting in the Monastery, we lose the game. So basically the Necromancer is trying to overwhelm certain tiles to the point that it starts to bleed into the Monastery. And then we really have our work cut out for us because we're going to have people in the Monastery to try to deal with that. Plus, we're going to have, you know, try to go over to the major area that's being affected the most. The nastiest thing about this is that a 4 or a 6 keeps the Necromancer in the exact same spot. And that's what makes this really tough. So going into part 2 of our playthrough is going to be really interesting. And this is a fantastic time to stop. So at this particular time, we've now finished 2 full rounds. And what I want to do is I want to throw it back to you guys. First off, if you like what you've seen so far, give me a like. Let me know that you're enjoying it. Also, in the comments below, let me know if you saw anything I missed. I'd be happy to try to correct it if I can at this point. Also, I want your feedback on a strategy. We've got, you know, generally half the board over here clear, but this side is starting to load up on the far side of the board, 2 spaces away, which is going to take us a little bit longer to get there. But what I really want is your feedback on what we can do. What are your strategies? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to basically glide across my power cards really quick so you're able to pause as you want to in order to take a look at them to see whether or not there's anything inside of them that are really going to benefit us. Maybe something that you're seeing that I'm not, that potentially could actually help us out quite a bit. So, I mean, some of these we're already using, so, you know, there's some that are kind of sideways because we've actually exhausted them for their use currently. So thank you so much for watching. Can't wait to see you guys in the next episode. I'm really having a blast with this. It's quite fun, although I'm starting to get a little scared that this is going to get out of hand in the swamp. It's a party in the swamp that I don't want to go to. So anyway, thanks for watching, and as always, keep on rolling solo.